Okay, so to get started, we're going to go into our front view here and we're going to choose either wireframe, or you can be in solid shade view, but go into the viewport overlays drop down and enable wireframe. And this will make it so we can see where wireframe is no matter what. Now, if I click on tab, that jumps us into edit mode. And so we can go ahead and start adding that elbow. So if I do Control R, we can click and drag. And so I actually want this to not just be one edge loop. I want this to be multiple edge loops. So I'm going to hit escape and do Command Z. And so when we do Control R, we're going to use the scroll wheel to scroll up, and you'll notice that it adds two edge loops for us. So if you hit escape, it'll get you out of the mode where you can move these around, so it'll drop them right where they were. If instead you would like to use the button instead of the shortcut key, which is over here on the left called Loop Cut, we can adjust the number of cuts on the right using the tool settings. So I'm going to put 2 here, and we're just going to click in the middle. And you can see here on the left it's added both. Now these are too far apart for us to actually be able to treat this like an elbow. So if I do scale, you'll notice that we can scale this, but I actually want to scale it just in the x-axis so that they're moving towards each other like this. Now, while we're on the subject of adding elbows, why don't we just go ahead and do the knees as well. So SZ to scale, and then we're going to use the Z-axis to constrain that. So just press Z after you press S. And now what we have are elbows and knees. And we also want to be able to articulate the legs around the waist and maybe bend the character's back. And so to do that, we're going to need more subdivisions in the mesh separating the waist from the upper portion of the torso. So I am going to press Control R on my keyboard and just use the mouse wheel to scroll up. I'm going to add those two, and I'm going to press escape. And I'm going to go ahead and add one here, and I'm going to drag that up close to the hip area. And that's going to be good for right now. And I might add one here at the bottom towards the top of the foot. The foot will probably be modified later. Okay, so now we're able to actually bend the character. I do want to clean up the neck. It is not looking too good, so I'm going to do Control R here, move that in the middle, and then maybe do a scale in the X. And now what you'll notice is we're actually scaling along the boundary. And so what's happening is it's kind of ruining the placement of our boundary vertices. So be careful with that. Let's not use scale to actually fix this. We're going to press 1 on the keyboard, go to vertex mode, and then we're going to actually adjust this manually here using the move tool. Okay, so that's fine for now. And what I want to do is actually think about making the head a little bit more round. This is purposely given to you as a mesh that you have to fix in order for you to start trying to do this problem solving. If we bend the shoulders, you'll notice that there's really not enough resolution here to make that bend. And just to prove that, I'm going to rotate, let's go to X-ray mode so that we can select through our mesh. I'm going to rotate this in the Y, and if we just, move this down into place, you'll notice that the shoulder just kind of melts away, and that's because we need some more geometry there. So let's go ahead and add an edge loop with Command R or Control R on my keyboard, and then I'm going to grab these again. Let's just do R to rotate just for an example, and now you can see the shoulder is still kind of hanging out in place. This will look better once it's rigged. These vertices, for instance, would want to come down, maybe something like that. We could pull these shoulders vertices out as well. So let's just go back and undo that. And I can actually bring these up and then move them out a little bit. In the kind of olden days of character design, you would see the T-pose as something very exaggerated in terms of how much of a T-pose a character was in, very straight across. in terms of the angle of the arm, like a 90-degree angle from the body. Now what you'll see is a lot of character artists are creating T-poses in a shape that's more like, and I grabbed those on purpose there just to move them at the same time. You'll see that the T-pose is much lower. And then this is just because I think animators find and modelers find that when they rig, the deformation is a little bit better. It's a little bit nicer when the arms start out not quite so high up. So you can go ahead and move this down if you want. But I think we're probably going to do that at a later step. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the top view. And one of the things you have to understand about a pose like this is it should be fairly similar to how you would stand or how a person would stand and what their body would look like. In our case, the elbow would actually be kicked back a little bit, sort of like this. So you're kind of biasing the bend of the arm right off the bat. And you always want to have a T-pose like this where the hand is flat and the thumb would be forward. And that's like the correct rotation of the arm for a T-pose. Okay, and then if we go into the side view, the X-axis view here, we want to actually kick the knees forward. And because of our scaling, we kind of did that a little bit. But now what we can do here is just move these vertices so that they're a little bit forward. And this is going to be a more realistic stance. Okay, and we could probably just start sculpting the shape of this leg a little bit, maybe to get something more realistic in terms of the shape of the leg. Okay, so of course we could add more geometry. The idea here is not to make the world's most perfect character model. It's just to put enough geometry in to be able to articulate it. Okay, so that's looking pretty good so far.